Hello and welcome to Console Shock, episode 70, retro and modern gaming chat with me, Trev and Stu. How's it going,
Hi, Trev, how you doing?
Good, yeah. I'm a little bit worried though because you put a bit of time pressure on us with this show. You want us to make sure we keep it to an hour.
Keep it to an hour.
Yeah, so you can go and watch Bake Off.
So we think I was going to say, yeah, I want to watch Bake Off. That's true. I do want to watch Bake Off. I was thinking if we have it an hour, we can call it the hour of retro.
Yeah, well, we always
see what I'm doing there?
An hour, but yeah, the hour of retro. Yeah, we can rename the show that, to be honest. But
the hour of retro.
Obviously, Bake Off it takes priority over any kind of video gaming or important YouTubing.
It's start of a new series, and I did go out last night when it was actually on live.
Sacrificed yourself for that, yeah?
I did, yeah. We actually, I don't know if we should mention it, but we found a loophole in the government's COVID rules. So we went to a football game, and it was.
You say we found a loophole. It was already just arranged,
it was already arranged.
Yeah.
It was very, very well managed. We all had our masks on, our face masks on the whole time. And it was actually a really good evening. There was only about 500 people in there, but we saw, I have to admit, a good quality game of football. It was very competitive, and it was actually a really good evening. And it was, I hadn't seen a game of football since maybe sort of February. February, January.
It would have been, yeah.
And
before it locked down. So
it sounds like, again, after the announcement yesterday, that we won't be watching any live sport for maybe another 6 months.
It was good timing, really.
It was quite sort of a one-off little thing. So
we'll have to stick to playing FIFA at home.
Stick to FIFA at home, yeah.
Well, anyway, admittedly, we don't have to hug each other like we nearly did last time if we play online because we resisted that, didn't we? We didn't want to pass the Rona on if one of us had it. Because they're living in London, it's hard to tell, really, isn't it?
I think everyone in London's already had it.
Well, I think a lot of us are just asymptomatic, isn't it?
Right, let's stop putting fake news out there about.
God, we've gone on a tangent now, isn't it? You and your Bake Off, Stu. Bloody hell!
I think the right thing is wear the masks, do what you need to do, and follow all the rules.
Don't hug each other.
I think that's don't hug each other. If you see someone give them the elbow.
Exactly, as in high five type elbow, not elbow them. But anyway, so we've got another guest on today's show. So we had a bit of a legend of one of the many legends these days of sort of Amiga land. Although the Amiga isn't his favourite gaming platform, apparently, which is
it's his
odd.
Second favourite.
Yeah,
he talks about it a lot. I was surprised.
He's got the odd video, isn't he?
He's got the odd video about the
Amiga,
channel. But somehow it's not his favourite machine.
I know, bizarre. But we love Dan to bits. Spoiler alert: the Amiga isn't his number one. If you haven't watched that show yet, but please jump back and watch it. It was a great show. It was great having Dan on. But we're on a bit of an Amiga odyssey at the moment because one of our other favourite, very Amiga focused channels, although she does do other stuff as well. Another one of the sort of Amiga legends, we think, on YouTube. I mean, maybe we'll get there one day because we do talk about it more, it seems. Not like the YouTube needs more people talking about Amiga, but we've got back on Maddie or MsMadLemon. Thank you for coming back on again, Maddie.
Hello again. And that's MsMadLemon, by the way.
MsMadLemon. I called you that last time, didn't I?
Yeah,
Mrs.
you
Mad
did.
Lemon. MsMadLemon. There we go. I've got it right.
People think I'm married to the guy who runs Lemon Amiga or something like this.
Someone called Mr. Mad Lemon.
No, so you're not married to Mr. Mad Lemon?
I've got no affiliation with Lemon Amiga, by the way. I'm not married to him.
Okay.
I did think that. So it's not actually a reference to Lemon Amiga.
It's not my surname even.
It's just lemons, and you like them. And
why lemon then? If you don't mind me asking.
It's kind of weird. When I was signing up the Google account, my name is like quite unique, so I thought there'll be quite a few available. There just wasn't, so I just got annoyed after quite a while because I hate putting numbers after whatever. Yeah. So I got annoyed and I just typed in something random, and it turned out to be MsMadLemon, and that was available. I was like, fine, I'll take it. I don't care.
That's great. That's
where it began.
It's quite funny because my mum's name's Maddie, so I think she's actually gone onto YouTube and signed up Maddie everything. Maddie Amiga, Maddie 101, everything's Maddie on all her accounts. So she's taken all the good names.
Oh dear, I think your mum's responsible for this then.
Yeah, well, maybe. Some of the conversations I have about computers with her, I very much doubt that. But
well, that's great. There, we've got a nice little secret fact about your channel there, Maddie. So you're not married to a Mr. Mad Lemon, which is always.
I'm not at all.
Well, thank you again for coming on. And the reason why, well, apart from the fact we really enjoyed having you on last time, it's always great to have some of our favorite YouTubers on. But something that inspired us lately, and that you do on your channel. I mean, you've done it a few times. I think recently you posted a video about this, and I had sort of caught it and thought it was great. And it made me think, that would be a great thing for us to chat about, and you'd be the perfect person to bring on. But we have very fond memories of computer magazines and games console magazines. And obviously, we all like the Amigas, and the Amiga had a phenomenal range of magazines in the UK. And one thing you like to do on your channel, Maddie, is you sort of take like an issue of, whatever magazine you happen to have to hand, one of the many Amiga mags, and you sort of do a read through, and you sort of flick through the pages, and, you sort of look at all the old adverts that we remember that when we used to get the same magazines, and how kind of crazy the prices of things were in those days. And just, because that was the way we learned about, the newest products and the latest Amiga news.
And how much more crazier they've become now.
I know, God, that's like, it's like, it was cheap almost then, isn't it? Looking back, they weren't cheap then. Yeah. So when we look at sort of Amiga magazines, there's actually quite a few of them. So what were your favourites, Maddie, when you were sort of, back in the sort of glory days of the Amiga that you would make a point of picking up?
My favorites were actually two. There was CU Amiga and Amiga Format. CU Amiga had some electronic projects every now and then, and they were oriented towards that. So it was kind of fascinating to do projects like that. That's what I used to do as well back then. But Amiga Format was like an all-rounder sort of thing. So I was those two, when I started buying magazines, those two were the ones that I get. But before that, when I was younger, my brother used to subscribe to, I think, quite a few of them. The one Amiga. I don't know how.
So many, wasn't there? It was crazy.
Yeah, there was quite a few. Amiga Shopper, Amiga Power, CU Amiga, Amiga Format, of course, and quite a few others. I think he was really into his magazines. I'm not sure where they've all gone. He had boxes of them.
Yeah, same here. I mean, just for the people that might necessarily have, are a bit younger and perhaps didn't grow up in the era when a magazine was basically the way you got the latest news on whatever platform that you used. In terms of the Amiga, I mean, there must have been, there's at least 6, 7 or 8 fairly prominent Amiga-focused magazines. And Amiga Format was like the biggest selling, like consumer interest or whatever that genre is called, magazine of them all. It would outsell whatever gardening magazines and home improvement magazines and pet magazines, and basically all the magazines. Isn't that crazy? Like,
It is.
and that was Amiga Format that outsold all of them, and it would sell like hundreds of thousands, like 300,000 or 400,000 at its peak in the very mid-90s each month. I mean, a magazine now sells like probably there's not many video game ones going. I mean, there's still PC magazines, but I think it's just the official PlayStation and Xbox magazines really they're the only major ones left. A lot of them have completely dropped off, haven't they, in the last few years?
Aren't they any based on Nintendo or anything? Not that I'm like, I'm not the biggest fan of Nintendo, but I'm just curious because I thought that was another major platform.
Yeah, funny enough, actually, the official Nintendo magazine, which actually I remember buying, like I've got a really early issue of that, like the third issue of it from like '93, and it's called Nintendo Magazine System in the early '90s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like Meme Machine.
Yeah, I think it did. The same people. A bunch of people broke away and then joined a Nintendo Magazine System, and it became official Nintendo Magazine in the late '90s. And I think it was called that up until when it finished. But in 2014, I think was the last print issue, and I don't think there is a Nintendo magazine. But funnily enough, a UK Kickstarter started not that long ago to produce a UK Nintendo focused magazine. So I'm kind of giving them a plug here, like indirectly. I've nothing to do with it. This is just what I've actually bought an issue of it actually, but it's called Ninty Fresh, which is quite a funny name. But if you look it up, they did a Kickstarter. It went great. They got enough money to produce the first issue. I've actually ordered the first issue online just to see what it looks like. It looks good from what I've seen of it, like glossy, 60 or 70 pages. I think it is magazine about old Nintendo and new Nintendo. So yeah, I've ordered it. So I'll let everyone know what I think of it when I get it. It's about £5, I think. But yeah, that's the only Nintendo magazine, the UK based now, that have all dropped off.
I'm actually surprised because Nintendo's still going with the Switch and everything. So I thought, when you just mentioned Xbox, because I'm not in touch with the modern stuff as much as I am with the retro stuff. So you just mentioned Xbox and PlayStation. I'm like, I thought Nintendo was a thing with the Switch and everything. So kind of surprised. Yeah.
They had a magazine. It stopped in 2014 after a long run. Games Master was one of the few that had a long run as well. That finished in 2018, I think. So really, really recently. I was actually really annoyed the other day because I wanted to pick up a copy of Macworld because I hadn't bought. That used to be after like the Amiga died. I kind of ended up going over to the Mac as my sort of nerdy computer platform that no one else is into. Well, that's different now. A lot of people have Macs now. They didn't started using them. So Macworld was a bit like Amiga Format. It was like the cool little mag that you'd get that you'd learn all the latest Apple news. But it was really just the Mac was the news that was in there. There wasn't any iPhones or iPods. Not when I started getting it. Later on, there was.
Somehow the Mac, the earlier Macs, kind of reminded you a little bit. They felt a little Amiga-ish, so it was sort of more than Windows itself. So I can understand that actually. But the more recent, I'm not an Apple person anymore, like I used to be, because of how they are now.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a closed shop, isn't it? Like kind of always was to a degree, but the computers, especially, you can barely upgrade them now, and you basically, if you want to do something new with a Mac or upgrade it, you just throw that one away and buy a new one.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No,
it's like an arm and a leg for them in the first place. So it's.
I know, right? I mean, I have a lot of fun upgrading. We did a great episode not long ago, didn't we, Stu, about what you can do with some of the old Power PC Macs, and you can still upgrade them, like especially the Power Macs. You can open them up, stick all kinds of nonsense in them, upgrade them,
and that's the fun of it as well.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. You can do that with those ones. I've got a couple of Power Mac G4s that I like to upgrade and keep old games on them. There's a lot of really good Mac versions of Amiga games that run on those machines. But yeah, I used to get Macworld, and I found out that stopped doing a print publication in 2015. So there's I think that's just Mac Format is the only one left that does a print magazine. Mac User was another big Mac magazine that finished in 2008 or 9.
It's funny. You get lots of sort of magazines of the old person's guide to the iPad. You get loads of things like that when you go into sort of W.H. Smith's or you know, how to, I don't know, all these sort of idiots guides that are almost, I guess they're sort of maybe sort of out for 6 months maybe. But the section of sort of computer game magazines, I remember it used to be about, I don't know, 3 or 4 sections in John Menzies.
Easily,
And now it's, I don't know, you get Edge, and one of the biggest ones actually seems to be Retro Gamer.
That's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
That actually, you people of our age, you want to go there and, you know, pick it up and read about all the old stuff, but I think I sound very, so it's sort of bad to say this, but a lot of the information that you can get now, and in fact you get so much more information. There's so many people's, you know, amazing blogs, you know, YouTube channels and things like that, where you can go into, you haven't got to wait a month for, you know, the next issue, and hopefully they'll cover the things that you're particularly interested in. And
it's funny you should say that about Retro Game, because I think that I bought the first issue of that in 2004 when it started.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that obviously we're in the middle of the current gen consoles with the PS2, the GameCube, and the Xbox, and they had a lot of retro compilations. So what Retro Gamer would cover in those days was like Intellivision and Sinclair Spectrum and Atari 2600 and stuff. Now the issues that are coming out now are covering, like, you know, look, let's talk about the legendary PS2 and like the Xbox. And the last issue of like Amiga Format was in 2000. Retro Gamer only started a few years after that, and now we're way further away from the first issue of Retro Gamer than Retro Gamer was from like the last issue of, like, you know, probably actually the first issue of Amiga Format. You know, we're further away from that. Isn't that? God, I feel old now. Sorry, guys.
I mean, have you heard of Amiga Future, the modern Amiga magazine?
I've heard of it. Yeah, have you actually bought that, Maddie, or read it? Is it any good?
Actually, I featured in it myself. I was in the issues.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Sorry, what?
What was that like?
It's actually pretty good. I mean, it comes with a cover CD as well, so it covers, you know, the things like, depending on what's new, it's like things like Vampire, all sorts, and it's like, you know, it gives you a good update on that. So I suppose in a way it's sort of nice that there is something on the scene that it's active, you know, currently active on the Amiga. I mean, I do love reading the old magazines, of course, but I have done a few flip throughs of. I mean, I've been doing flip throughs for a while, but I just stopped for a long period of time. So actually, I'll link you later on to the flip through of the Amiga Future. So it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I think it's made in Germany, isn't it? And they didn't do an English version until a few years down the road of them making it. So they obviously do an English version. So is it like, is it actually like a glossy, sort of high quality magazine? It's not like a fanzine, really.
No, it's actually a proper magazine. So yeah.
And you get like a disc with it, then, do you? Or
yes, you get a cover CD with it. So it covers quite a few platforms, like the modern Amiga, the Aeon systems, and also the classic Amigas too. You know, so it caters for like both.
So what does it like review then? Like, obviously there's obviously new hardware coming out, and there are new games. I can't imagine it's in. I mean, I don't know really, but I don't think there's the same amount of games come out now as they did in the 90s. But they just review the old games again and just over and over to keep the issues coming out.
Actually, there's a few games that have come out. So they've been reviewing games and hardware. You know, things like the Vampire, things like the Witcher upgrade, and obviously there's more as well. And there's a few games as well that've come out. So you know, it reviews quite a bit.
Would you say it's worth getting then? I mean, I guess they get.
It's definitely worth getting, like a couple. Like, you know, I mean, if you're gonna just get it to see what it's like and see what it is, then definitely, I'd say get a couple of issues and you can even subscribe to it. So, you know.
Is it monthly, just like, you know, Amiga Format?
Monthly, yes.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm. How long has that been going for now? Because I remember reading about that magazine maybe in the mid 2000s, I think.
I mean, I first knew about it when they approached me for like an interview, and that was kind of almost when I first started. I first started YouTube in 2015, so it's like 2017. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm actually going to look it up because I'm curious to see when it did start. But I have a sneaking suspicion that it might actually be going longer than Amiga Format did. Because obviously Amiga Format, when did that start? 1989.
That's right. Yeah.
2000.
I'm just looking, just to let people know, the Amiga Future magazine is €72 for the whole year for 1 year subscription. So obviously, and that's with the cover CD. So that's probably, I don't know, £65. So what's that? Sort of about £5 an issue. So I think that's pretty good value, really.
It's about the standard price for a magazine these days, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine if you get a sort of a CD with it, that's a great way to get actually, loads of sort of pretty good software, because, one of the things I always think about the Amiga is actually, it's great to get one. Now, hold on, how do I get all this software? I've got to download it, get it onto this, and convert it, or I don't know, move it over somehow to actually be work on the Amiga.
That's right. Yeah, if it's you can straight put it on the Amiga if you've got the CD-ROM and
exactly.
Yeah. Drive, that's right. So it makes life a bit easier, and it comes with demos and things like this. So that's pretty good. It is pretty good.
So you mentioned obviously that you do the read-throughs. What inspired you to do those? When you started doing them.
I just thought I wanted to do something with chill out time. I mean, how much I enjoy looking through the magazines anyway. So I thought, why not just, try sharing that, my flick through. Because I was like thinking to myself that I get excited about all these, adverts and everything, the things that I used to get. I got to, if you've seen a flip through of mine, you'll see that I've always got a story behind something, some piece of hardware.
Yeah.
So I wanted to I felt I needed to voice it out. So I thought, okay, let's just film this and, see how it goes. And it was fine. Yeah.
Were they sort of copies that you had all this time, or did you have to do the classic thing where someone threw out all your magazines, and then you had to sort of rebuy them? Did you manage to hold on to them all?
Some of them actually, I think around half of them I still got from back then. But then of the other half, there's some of the ones that I remember fondly, which I didn't have, I had to rebuy again. So half and half, I guess.
What's that been like, rebuying them with people charging £7 or £8 for a
copy
of Amiga Format?
I think it depends on the issue, actually. Sometimes, but sometimes I've struck up a deal with somebody on eBay, and they've just been like, okay, I'll knock off a few pounds, and that's it.
I think it's one of those things. If you go to them and you say, okay, I want to buy every magazine you've got, and then it's just it's such an awkward thing with sort of postage, and
it is,
sending sort of one magazine at a time, and
exactly, because when I go on eBay, I always see what the other items are, so I can combine with the shipping. I always do that just to kind of save and see what something else that I can that I can get at the same time.
Yeah, the people charging £9 for the issue, £4 postage, and it's like
it's true. I mean, sometimes when you get a full set, like a magazine with cover discs or cover CD, sometimes you get charged like 10 or 15 or something per magazine. I'm like, well, that doesn't need to be that much.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble with collecting like magazines. I mean, if I had free reign to do it, I would probably go berserk and just get every issue of Amiga Shopper and Amiga Format, but. For one, they just take up so much space.
That's true.
Yes. And you need kind of 2 or 3 shelving IKEA Billy bookcases or something.
You do.
Yeah.
Firstly, you need the room to put the darn shelving in.
You need that for starters, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to end up in a box. But I like the idea of having them just available, just to whip out of a bookshelf to sort of craft through them every now and then. But that's difficult to do, and it's also
yes. Go ahead.
God, Stu.
I was almost going to say it's. I mean, it's great having these sort of magazines, and you know what you're saying about the space. And Maddie, do you look at sort of the PDF versions as well? And do you try and get those, or actually do you want the original and actually have the feel of flipping the pages rather than look at them on your iPad, your tablet, your laptop, and pressing next? I mean, do you do that as well, or?
I do have them on a tablet, and I have got quite quite a few PDFs, but I gravitate towards the actual magazine. It's I've tried reading with PDFs. It's not the same. It's not like how I used to. So I do feel like I do miss that in hand sort of feeling, and it's somehow easier on the eyes in a way.
I think my girlfriend will kill me if there's all old magazines sort of lying around the flat. So I think she'll, you can have one and then you've got to chuck it out and then get another one. And that's what she'll say to me. So, you've got to
appease. I know the feeling. I've got a big pile of magazines next to my bed, like of old Amiga magazines and some old PC ones. Yeah, and I just grab one and flip through it, even though it's less convenient than a PDF, because obviously you could stick a PDF on like an iPad, and it's a really nice way to thread it. Whereas magazines they're quite awkwardly shaped. Most Amiga mags they're sort of a bit sort of wider than A4. Obviously you can't read them at night, in your bed or something. You've got to really have some kind of a night light on or something just to be able to see them. And they're just kind of they're a bit unwieldy, but I feel more motivated to read them if they're an actual physical magazine.
Exactly, yes.
If they're just all there in archive.org to open a PDF, I don't really feel... that doesn't kind of give me any kind of a buzz or a desire to read them. It's really odd.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar thing with if you get a CD or a vinyl record, it's a different feeling, getting the physical disc, putting it on, and reading the booklet and everything. So it gives you a different experience. It feels sort of reading magazines just like the paper magazines. It actually feels more natural to me rather than just reading it off a screen, which we do anyway. With the remainder of our life, we're on the screen all the time. Anyway.
Yeah. It's kind of the one opportunity to get away from it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Give your eyes a bit of a rest.
Yeah. Do you read do you subscribe to any real magazines, computer mags, or like I said, there's Amiga Future?
I actually, sorry, go on.
I was just saying, is there any other magazines that you still purchase, in real life?
I actually want to. I really do, but it's just the space.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I don't. It's space and also money. I've got a lot of projects going on, and I've got to be careful on what I spend what on. But there's with the physical thing. I think I've got Amiga magazines coming on my ears now. So
if you want to get rid of them, Maddie, Trevor will buy them all off you at above market pricing.
I wouldn't want to get rid of them. That's the problem.
Oh, fair enough. Sorry, Trev.
I mean, it's with regards to magazines, it's like they're in a way they've sort of changed a few aspects of my life. Like when I create music and soundtrack or Pro 2, I mean, what introduced me to that was a magazine. If it sparks off an interest, and since then my life has been creating music, and so that's quite significant. So issues like that. I do this with physical copies of games as well. I'd love to collect physical copies of games, but the problem is space. So I collect all my favorite ones. I mean, I don't believe in libraries and libraries worth of games, of games you'll never play anyway. So I always like collecting my favorite ones, the ones that are special to me. So I do the same with magazines as well.
Yeah, I haven't got a plan to some people want to get a complete collection of every single console. Because that would mean, especially with something like a Wii or a PS2, you're gonna have 100 fitness games and 100 pop star games and stuff like that. And it's just because I only collect games that I have an interest in for some reason. Whether it's I read about them in the magazine when I was a kid and could never buy it at that time, or I've seen a review on YouTube, and it piqued my interest. Things that genuinely interest me. That'll still amount to a lot of games. But I'm not aiming to get a complete set of anything really. So and with magazines, because they're even bigger in many respects, I don't think I'd want to get a complete run of anything. So have you got quite a big collection then, Maddie, of Amiga mags? How many have you got?
I mean, I wouldn't say quite a big, but there's a good box full of worth of them.
Right.
It's I mean, my bookshelf's full, and there's like a magazine rack in front of it, which is full as well.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of I mean, my excuse is, I can buy these for chill out time magazine flip throughs. So that's my excuse to treat myself.
Throw more on the pile that's ever growing.
Yes, that's right. And also, by the way, there's on eBay. When we were talking about the prices of magazines on eBay, there is one. The One Amiga magazine.
Yes.
I really used to subscribe to this, but there's one issue of the One Amiga, which is $3,000.
Whoa!
I know.
$3,000. Why?
I'll actually link it to you, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
What's so special about it?
I no idea. I mean, I forgot that my brother subscribed to it when I was really young, so I just kind of like. I'll give you the link here.
It's not like the first issue or some kind of special.
Yeah, I think it might be. It might be a first issue. My brother used to subscribe to the One Amiga, but I totally forgot about it because it was when I was really young.
Yeah,
so later on, when I started doing flip throughs, I decided, okay, let's get a cheap version of, a cheap one of this, cheap issue of this, and do a flip through and see what it's all about. Why is it so special? But it's just one of these, which is magazines, which is concentrating more on games. So the actual magazine itself is pretty good, but I don't think it warrants being $3,000.
Yeah, I remember like buying one issue of the One Amiga in 1994 because it had a demo of Mortal Kombat 2 on it, and just to play that. And but I read the magazine and thought this is like crap, so I didn't buy another one, and I went back. Just said I'll just keep getting Amiga format. It's probably because weirdly the game only Amiga magazines didn't appeal to me. I know Stu, you like Amiga Power. I never bought an issue of Amiga Power, like ever, even though it's like a legend of a magazine.
Well, hold on. They've got on. Sorry, you said you sent me two links, and one of them has the disc, and says 95, 96 at the top. So it's got a review of Sensible Soccer on there, and that's for 9 magazines. Is a buy it now of £300. So yeah, basically £30 a magazine, which is okay. That's still crazy.
Oh, hold on a second. This is. Did I send you the right link?
Yeah, but then the one above is the same magazine. It looks like, but then it's got a disc with it.
Yes, that's right. This is a final issue of it. It
says Maverick Edition.
It's not even. It's like a poster almost. It's like 8 pages or something. It's absolutely terrible.
It does seem like that.
If you look in the one below, it has got the same. I think the same issue.
The One Amiga basically, as with many Amiga mags, it just got smaller and smaller and smaller until it looks like it was literally like a pamphlet with the disc attached.
This literally, now that I look at it, it's the first time I've actually looked into this listing, and it does feel like a pamphlet for $3,000.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm actually looking at the one below, and I did buy another issue, and the one that's got a helicopter on the front, and it's from February '96. I think I bought it because I was like, wow, this is still going. I was still using my Amiga in 1996, but I was like, and it had I think it had like Z-Wolf on like the cover disc, but it was still crap, and Amiga format was still in 1996. Amiga format was still quite big. It was still like over 100 pages. But yeah, it was just that's an insane amount. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't really think about the magazines, do they, when it comes to Amiga sort of collecting and all that stuff? But yeah, it's quite big, and like I say, they go for quite a lot of money. I mean, if you try, I did see the last couple of weeks, someone put the last issue of Amiga format up on eBay. It actually only went for about £30. I thought it'd go for more than that. But yeah,
I probably wouldn't want the last one.
It feels
I'd actually want the one from when it was one of the biggest magazines in the country, and it was 200-300 pages full of all happening stuff. Because I can imagine the last one might be a little bit sort of sad to read. It might be, oh well, we're all moving on, and unfortunately, Amiga's bankrupt, and Escom have gone pop, and and not really a good read. And I think, maybe the last one I wouldn't actually want to read, to be honest.
I mean, I've given myself the excuse to buy the last of CU Amiga. That's because I am doing flip-throughs.
Exactly.
But I've got that to come yet. So it's sort of, I'm not looking forward to it in the same sense as you've just mentioned. It's going to be really sad. But the earlier ones, they have a bit more steam in them. You feel a bit more alive reading them.
Because what I love about when you're looking through the magazines is, and I sort of relate it back. I remember when I was at university, and I've probably told this story before. Is I was in the library, and they had all sort of the reference magazines in there. So you have The Economist and things like this, and you could read them from 20 years ago. And of course, they had these PC magazines from basically 1984 And it was just, I sat there sort of one afternoon, didn't do any work, any revision. Hopefully, an exam wasn't sort of coming up or anything. And it was just amazing looking through these magazines and actually seeing all of the adverts in there. And it was like, actually, that's what I enjoyed looking at the most. And then watching you sort of look through CU Amiga or Amiga Format, you seem to, obviously, you like the articles, but then when you get to the adverts, you're like, oh, I remember I had this, or I had that. Oh, I always wanted one of those. Hold on, what's this? What does that do? And that was what I sort of enjoyed the most out of sort of watching your sort of flip through magazines.
Exactly. It's the adverts to kind of like bring it to life. It's what I have fun memories of. So it's
you're like, how much is that?
Yeah.
Either things like, God, I wish I bought 20 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're the opposite. It's like, people paid £500 for a what? And it's just absolutely ridiculous. So what sort of things sort of come to mind as sort of that you just think, oh my God, they were so expensive, or actually something that wasn't really that good, or the opposite, what was really cheap for something that was amazing?
I mean, I'm thinking at the moment, Amiga samplers are getting they're getting expensive now. Apparently, thankfully, I still have the one from back in the day. But back then, actually, I'm not even sure how much they were again. I sort of forgot. But it's just such a simple thing. Things like samplers and MIDI interfaces. There was nothing to them, but they were. I mean, they were a fair price back then. But there was, the certain things like you'd have the PC Amiga link-up things, which, to be honest, it's like all it is a parallel cable.
and a disc.
That's just one little disc with a simple Amiga Intuition program. It's just like a CLI program or something, and it's just like, really? They advertised it into like this big thing that will change your life, but it's not.
No.
Yeah, and some of those things like are really hard to get now. I was I've got a few issues of like ST format as well. Like the mirror universe of like Amiga format, and that had like, there's an issue that talks about emulation on the ST, and one is like a board that you plug into the cartridge slot on the Atari ST, which has the Macintosh ROMs on it, and then you can basically put like the Mac OS system disk into your ST, and it will read it, and you can basically, it turns your ST into a Macintosh Plus or a Macintosh 512K, and it runs faster than because the Atari ST at the time had a slightly faster 68,000 than like the sort of low end Macs that are around at the time, and you could run most sort of the Mac software at that point in time of the early 90s. Word processors and even like things like Photoshop that wouldn't run very fast, but they could do it. But those things, you just cannot get those things. Like, they might pop up on eBay, but they'll go for like, it's like people that buy like the sort of PowerPC accelerators for the Amiga, and they go for like thousands. I think some of them.
It's ridiculous now. The PPC, the Blizzard PPCs.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous now. It's like you have to like remortgage your house or something. You can't get it.
Yeah, and they're not like, and this is like 90s technology that could be on its last legs that you're paying for. I mean, do they appeal to you, those PowerPC upgrades for the Amiga at all?
I mean, I used to have one. I had a PowerPC 68040, and it was really good. But the thing is, if I were to get it again now, then it's not something that would appeal to me. It's just.
What's it really for, basically? I mean,
it's an upgrade, but also you can, if you were to get it, if I were to have it now on my Amiga, I could run OS 4 on it.
Yeah.
On my 1200. So that would be the curiosity I have for OS 4.1 or something.
Or you can run like Quake well and Doom or something.
Probably. Yes, probably. It was pretty decent. The actual accelerator, but. Yeah, I don't think I'd pay a stupid amount for it right now. I mean, it's just expensive, and you're lucky if it works. And if it goes wrong, then there's no way to fix it.
And it's not like, and it doesn't easily run like the sort of regular 68K Amiga stuff, does it? You have to kind of turn off the board or the accelerator or something and reboot the Amiga into the regular workbench, or is that how it works? You want to use the old stuff?
It's got some weird system like this, so it's not something that, even though I regret selling all my stuff, I still would have probably ended up going for, a Witcher or a Vampire or something like this. It's I mean, the Vampire I've got, it's actually pretty amazing. What it can do.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I saw a card that
PC.
I saw a card that came out a little while ago, and it was I don't know, I'm making up numbers now, maybe £400 or £500, and you pop it into your Amiga, but you've also got to get yourself a 68060 chip to pop in it. So you've got to try and source one of those, and then buy the card, and then put the chip in.
Was that the Witcher? Was that the Witcher one?
Is that? I can't quite remember, but I was.
No, the Witcher for the 500, but.
So I think this was for a 1200, and I was in I was like, oh man, I'd love to have one of those, and that'd be absolutely amazing. And
then there's the argument, I think, when you hit sort of the 060, it breaks a lot of the compatibility with especially if you want to play a lot of old games, and then it just won't run. And I think even with an 040, there's issues. I think
there is. The higher you go, the less compatible it gets. But I mean, for somebody like myself, I've got I've got a number of Amigas there, so I always leave my Amiga 500 stock.
Yeah,
one of my Amiga 500 stock.
Yeah,
and I have a 600, which is the Vampire, a 600, which is stock, and then I have the 1200. The three main ones which I use. 1200 with the ACA 030. With the ACA 030, I always call it. So I've got like Amigas in different stages, depending on what I want to use on them. So it's if you've got like another Amiga alongside it, then you can just upgrade one to as much as you can go. But £500 plus sourcing the 060 processor is a bit much.
Yeah, I think the card was maybe £400. I can't quite remember from the video. I remember thinking, well, that's a lot. And then you got to try and find it. So when you see these things, they always say, oh, they're going to be £400. Oh, and then there's a waiting list, and then you got to find, and it was just all these sort of boundaries that were sort of put up, and I was like, oh, obviously it's a lot to try and.
Yeah, that's why I've never pulled the trigger on a Vampire. I've got like an ACA 1221, I think, in my Amiga 1200, but that's just something you can just go online and just buy it, like anything. There isn't a waiting list or anything. Whereas this, you've got to like wait for them to, and like I don't know, I kind of feel like as soon as if I bought one, there'll be a new version like the following year or something, and I'll be pissed off by the wait.
Exactly, that would get me.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with that as well is. One thing that I really want is to be able to just pipe all the video out, through a HDMI. Whereas at the moment, you've still got to kind of flip between like RGB for just your regular Amiga stuff, and you got to flip to like you can use the HDMI, but only if you're using like RTG graphic based stuff. And I think I don't know if it's out yet or out now, but there was the Vampire like version 4 or 5 that apparently would just combine everything through the HDMI cable with sound and everything. Is that out now, Maddie? Do you know about that one?
As far as I know, it is out. Though I think it's a pre-order again. So that's the problem with it. I mean, me personally, I think FPGA is probably the safest way to go. Because it's going to be a bit more. You're going to get quite a number of years out of that compared to, any of these. If you're having the source no 60 processor or something like that, I mean, that's already new old stock or something. If you're lucky, and it's going to break down. More chance of it breaking down.
And you could program an FPGA to be basically an 060 like anyway, and it's not it's not a chip from the 90s yanked out another.
I mean, the beauty of an FPGA is that it's not like it's an emulation. I think a lot of people think it's like emulation, but it's more often simulation. You're actually physically creating, that very processor. So it's at hardware, so it'll work exactly like it.
It's like it's sort of like it's not running some software that's pretending to be the chip. Exactly. The chip has basically been configured, the FPGA, to be set up exactly like the actual original chip. It's like it might as well be the real thing. I think that's the way to go, and it just means that it makes the accelerators that we're going to get in the future so much more flexible and fine tuned than perhaps digging out old chips. But to be honest, my interest isn't in trying to get an Amiga to be as good as like a late 90s PC, which it seems like to be a bit the goal with a lot of this stuff.
That's why I think I have one of my Amigas which is stock, and the other one which I want to do more advanced stuff on. It depends on what exactly you want to use on it or what you want to do on it. To be honest, the Vampire, I don't. It does more than what I need, to be honest. That is Vampire version 2. I have, so I don't feel the need for a version 4 myself personally, but you may get someone who wants to really do 3D rendering on it or something like this, and they have that option. But as you say, my heart lays in the classic Amiga, the classic Amiga software, which runs on 500 or stock 400 or something.
Yeah, it's funny because I see like a lot of the demos that people do. Like actually, Dan had a video about when he got a Vampire, and it was like, check out what I can do. I can play an MP3 and load a chat room now, and it's like, I don't want to spend £500 to be able to do that. I can run Quake at 6 frames a second. Woo! And it's like, I don't really want to do any of that stuff. I kind of feel like the sweet spot for me. And again, there's some people that love to be able to play an MP3 and all that, and run a workbench at like 640 by 480 or some outlandish like resolution really nicely. But like the sweet spot for me, I think it's probably like just an 030 running at probably between sort of 25 and 40 megahertz. So 3D games will be nice and smooth, like Frontier Elite 2 or something.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
Frontier Elite 2, it's the crisis, isn't it? It's the crisis of
the crisis of the Amiga. Can
it run Frontier Elite 2? And what other games were heavy on Damocles and all other sort of random 3D games, and just and cover the whole range of Amiga software, of classic Amiga software, so I can run the AGA games if I want. And that's why I think an Amiga 1200 with an 030 in it is basically all I really need.
And to be perfectly honest, my 1200 has got the ACA 1233N, which is exactly that 030 plus I think it's 40 megahertz. And it just, to be honest, it does everything I need. Most of the time that I do on my 1200. So I don't have any desire to upgrade that.
So you've got the Vampire as well, then?
I do, yes. I got the Vampire is 600, which was really kindly donated to me by the Vampire team themselves, and then I have the Amiga 1200 with the 1233, and then I've got a stock 500.
Well, there you go. The Vampire team will want it back now because you're saying that your regular 030 is good enough. But
what I do on the 1200, that's a difference. On the Vampire 600, I do more stuff.
So would you say like sort of just the accelerated 1200 that you just have like an 030? Was that your kind of main like Amiga then that you use the most?
Yeah, that's because when I create music, which is what I mostly do, music and the games, and that's all I need really. If I want to do some emulation or anything advanced, I use the Vampire 600. So I do have that option, which because I do want to try out some rendering software, and I'm designing something called helping design the SidBugs. I'm on part of the SidBugs team, which is like a player. Yes.
That's
so
cool.
I'm doing actually the graphics, the menu systems and everything for that. So I think, I may try doing that on the, I've started doing it on the 1200, but I think I may move to the Vampire 600 for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You were saying actually, like, what thing was a good price back in the day, and perhaps is either worse now or better now. I would actually say like an Amiga 600 would fall into one of those categories. I mean, when you maybe got to like 94, 95, and it had been out a couple of years, and it was kind of about 200 quid, I think. I think you could buy one then, and I think that was a pretty good computer. But if you did, and you've still got it, I think it's one of the best Amigas now. Because you couldn't get any accelerators for it really throughout the 90s. I don't think at all. It was stuck, wasn't it? Really, at that 68,000, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't, make it a little higher stock anyway.
Yeah.
I think it should have been an 020, and then the Amiga 1200 should have been an 030.
100%, yeah.
And been a year earlier, I think, as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't see the point in a 500 plus when you have the 600, it just to make each other redundant.
They're just bloody idiots, weren't they, Commodore?
Yeah.
We just want to travel back in time and just shake them and be like, stop all this stupid crap.
It was mainly the it wasn't the engineers, it was those who just they had no idea what was going on with the Amiga itself. They didn't have a passion, they just saw it as a disposable product, and then just
we've all heard the stories about all the sort of the amazing computers that they were the what was it, the AAA chipset, I think it was called, and like the next Amiga and things like that, really sort of we need to do this to compete with what's going on PCs and potentially I always sort of talk about is actually I probably mentioned it before actually, but it may be in my head, is the difference in Amiga and PC was Amiga's work made by Commodore and that was it. If they actually went down the route of I don't know, maybe sort of making Amiga compatible computers, and that would have been sort of the ultimate sort of success really to have taken it out of purely with Commodore. And I've loved the idea of being able to find sort of buy a motherboard, then you can just put whatever sort of PAL PC chip you wanted into it, and then get different graphics cards. And
I think you can just look at the Mac really, can't you, and see how that's evolved, because that's a platform that has remained a separate platform from the PC. Obviously, it shares a lot of traits with the PC. I mean, they use Intel chips these days. They used PowerPC back in the day. Yeah. I think the Amiga would have, if they had a decent backing behind them, maybe somehow Commodore got their act together and survived. I would think probably we would have had a similar trajectory. I think you might have Amigas now with Intel chips in and stuff. Still using.
Yeah, I mean, potentially, yeah.
I'm wondering how, if Amiga did, continue and succeed, I always do think, how would it have been? Would it have been just like a disposable thing like Macs are now? Would it reach this level? Or, I mean, I hope not, to be honest. I hope it did still have the magic it had back then. But
you would hope that like the workbench, like OS, would have carried on evolving. Like, at one stage, again, just referring to the Mac as the only kind of closest thing. Like you had like Mac OS 10 started in like 2000, and it was just like freaking like so far past Windows XP. It was like, it's unreal, and it really still is. The operating system is better than like Windows 10. As someone that uses both like quite often, and And I think Workbench hopefully would have been the same. They would have kept developing it and keeping it. I know everyone sort of does, PCs still can't multitask these days. Well, they can. I know we like to take the piss out of PCs for that, and because Amigas did it first, though, like really well. Yeah. And maybe they would have evolved to have loads of other new stuff that PCs and Macs maybe can't do at the moment. And yeah, I mean, Macs are evolving again now because they're probably going to go and start using ARM processors in the actual desktops, which is
they're using their own, what's it, Apple Silicon or something it's called, and I think that's quite good, and it's almost going back to the Amiga. The Amiga was its own operating system, its own chips, its own. It had it. It's all everything was made sort of by Commodore, and if anything.
The G4, like back in the day when Macs would use PowerPC chips, it was a big thing where the PowerPC G3 and G4 absolutely like smoked the Pentiums at the time. They'd always run like a Photoshop demo on a Mac and then on a PC, and the Mac would be done like an hour before the PC, even though it was lower clock speed. It could be like a 700 megahertz G3 versus a gigahertz Pentium 3, and the G3 would absolutely destroy it. And I think hopefully we're going to get back to that. I mean, they went to Intel processors, but that's basically because they couldn't. The PowerPC G5 needed an entire fridge to keep it cool.
It's true, actually.
Yeah, and they couldn't put it in a laptop. Everyone was waiting for a PowerBook G5, and they couldn't shrink it down because it was too hot. It would set fire to your legs if you had one on your lap. So Intel came along and were like, hey, we've got these new Intel Core Duo chips that are cool and powerful, and maybe we could make those for you. And Apple were like, all right. so they started using
it. It kind of felt like it's going towards the Windows PC sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of lost a bit of uniqueness, didn't it, when Apple said they were moving to Intel?
That's what I was wondering if the Amiga... I mean, as far as I know, the Amiga was about to go into the Sun Microsystems, or they had an opportunity to. So that would be
chips,
that would have been interesting. What would have come out of that? But it's unfortunately,
Jobs was friends with some of the people that some of the high up people at Sun Microsystems, so that's why you were sort of chatting to them. I think he said, "Can you make us some chips?" I just don't think they could do the volume or something. Is probably what they're worried about. Because they don't make like desktop computers, do they? Well, they make like this. Well, they make servers and and things like that. So that's why it panned out the way it did. But it would be really interesting with them going to ARM processors, because obviously they're mega low powered. So a laptop could last. Well, they're pretty good these days. Like a MacBook lasts like 7 or 8 hours. Well, just don't use Chrome as your browser, and you'll get an extra decade.
Extra decade.
Yeah, Chrome. Yeah, like my MacBook Air. If I use Safari on it, the battery will last about 11 hours. If I use Chrome, it's about 5. It's insane how crap Chrome is at power management. But yeah, anyway, it's a different podcast. But yeah, so Maddie, what would you say out of all of the issues that you've done your flick throughs of? What has been your favorite one?
I think it's the one with the soundtrack of Pro 2, and I've got an affection for that because of, it introduced me to the soundtrack of Pro 2, and then all my music came after that. It's kind of like, when something opens your inner creativity up, I forgot what issue number it is. It's CU Amiga, but it's that one which, it's the same issue which showcased the Amiga Walker.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is that one. And
that was on the disc, wasn't it? On one of the discs, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So it was soundtrack of Pro 2 and plus a little booklet on making music. So it was pretty cool, that. And yeah, that's the one that's kind of I've got a soft spot for, and that's purely because of that.
And that's the thing with if collecting these old magazines, as difficult as it is, as we've been talking about, you'll find these sort of features in them now that you maybe wouldn't get on a website these days, or there isn't an Amiga monthly thing. I mean, obviously there's indie retro news and all the different Amiga chat, like forums and websites, but is there many that really do like a 20-part guide on how to use Lightwave 3D or something, which you could still use today and make really cool stuff with. It hasn't aged too badly. So I think that's where like magazines are almost like mini time capsules, and they're kind of the entirety of like a run of Amiga magazines, like Amiga Power or Amiga Format. It's like a chronicle. It's like an Amiga encyclopedia and chronicle, isn't it? Rolled into one.
Yeah,
that's what I think the appeal is.
Maddie, I was going to ask, do you remember ever reading the letters page of Amiga Format?
Oh no, you're going, Stu.
Well, there was an edition of Amiga Format where a young Trevor, aged 14 and a half, sent them in a letter asking if Sonic the Hedgehog could be on the Amiga. Is this true? Is this true, Trevor?
Tell me the issue of this.
What issue was it, Trevor? Come on, you told us the other day. Remind us.
I didn't say anything. I've never been in Amiga Format. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're in one of the Amiga magazines in the letters page.
To be fair, I did mention it to Dan, didn't we, on the last
on the last podcast? Yeah.
Yes, I wrote a letter to Amiga Format. It was probably easy to get in the magazine in 1998 because it was the readership would have been a lot smaller. But it's September 9th, 1998, issue 114.
Issue 114.
Look out for it. Hopefully,
actually, if I do, I'll do a flip through and give you a little bit of a shout out.
Yes.
Oh, God, don't read through.
We'd love to see that. We'd love to see that.
All the issues off eBay, Maddie. You're not going to be able to get one. Damn, I've got to get a PDF.
I think I'm regretting doing this podcast now.
Oh, God. I've been stitched up. Here's everyone. Thanks for that. It's a lame letter where I moan about everybody putting their Amigas in towers, and I think that's detracting, making all the Amigas look like PCs, which we don't want to do, right, everyone? And they just said, "Oh, you're being an idiot. We're doing this so we can upgrade our Amiga."
If you're saying that, then I got to find that issue because I've got a reply for 14-year-old Trevor.
Oh God, I got a pretty good one straight away. So. Although weirdly enough, I could say, well, who's having the last laugh now? We're all putting our Amigas back in the wedge boxes, the wedge cases, and just sticking vampires in them. Forget the towers.
Yeah, I was going to actually say that. Something right now, I think I'm agreeing with 14-year-old Trevor because people said, why don't you tower your Amiga 1200 again? I'm just like, I did it back then, but now I don't want to.
So now you want to have it in that case,
Yeah.
I want to cram all that RAM and because the accelerators are so good now. So I think so we're agreed then. That's Trevor 1, Amiga Format 0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well done. You outsmarted them.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, guys. I appreciate that. I think I stopped buying it a few months after that as well because I started just getting official PlayStation magazine because I was like, I really want some demos for my PlayStation. So. I couldn't afford Amiga Format was really expensive in those last few years. It was like £6 or something for a far smaller magazine. And I think I got the floppy disk version as well because they made 2 versions, didn't they? At one point where you get either a CD or a floppy disk, but I didn't have a CD drive, so I'd miss out on.
I started getting the CD-ROM. I remember this. Before I towered my Amiga, I still started getting the CD-ROM drives, CD-ROM versions in hope to in future get a CD-ROM drive. But I did actually because I still have those to this day, the actual cover CDs.
I haven't got I wanted to get a CD drive for my Amiga. I think the best way is through the PCM-CIA port, isn't it? I think
that's going to be really expensive because you're going to need a SCSI interface, a squirrel interface. But I think the best way is probably IDE. So I do have actually I've done a couple of videos on how I've done that. At first, I did the slimline CD-ROM drives. I've got it at the back of the Amiga. But then what I did later on was attach a cable, an IDE cable, to the back of the Amiga, so it just looks like another socket. And then I can just connect to any standard PC IDE.
I remember CU Amiga actually did. They gave away the full version of TFX, the flight simulator, which never actually came out. They completed the game. It came out on the PC, and there's even a PlayStation version of it. but the Amiga version, literally, they finished it and it just got canned. They didn't bother releasing it commercially. And somehow CU Amiga got a hold of it and got permission to release it, and they put it on a cover disc. They're quite hard to find that now. That covered, and they should on eBay. You got to try and hope someone tries to sell it, and if they know anything about it, they'll jack up the price probably.
Now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, interesting little thing there. If you want the full game of TFX came with CU Amiga, I think, in sometime in '98. I think so. Yeah. Anyway, I think we've just hit an hour, and Stu really wants to watch Bake Off.
I do, yeah.
He'll be a bit of a grumpy socks if we don't let him go and watch Bake Off. Matt, are you going to watch Bake Off as well if you recorded it?
I might actually continue recording. I was like filming something, so I thought I'd take a break.
You're going to play Amiga games instead, maybe do a bit of cannon fodder or something?
I'm actually filming, so I'm in the middle of filming a video for this week, so I'm going to continue.
Any
this second
spoilers or?
Sorry, what?
Any spoilers? Can you give us a clue about what you're filming?
I'm actually filming myself composing a new tune using the Amiga. So I've got the Rife CS synthesizer, so I've connected to the Amiga. And what I'm doing now is I'm gonna, film myself doing the first ever song using the synthesizer, the Yamaha synthesizer CS.
That's awesome.
The Amiga. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
That's amazing. We'll look out for that one. Actually, one quick final question just before Stu gets up to his British Bake Off. You've painted like Amigas before. Would you recommend that versus retro brighting? Because obviously there's the thing where retro brighting can make things more brittle and it doesn't last a while. What's your thoughts on that quickly?
To be honest, retro brighting, I don't have anything against it, but it does fill me with it concerns me a bit. So what I personally would do myself is just if you want it beige, just repaint it the same beige. As long as you do a decent job on it, I think you'll even with retro bright, there's a good chance that it'll go yellow again, probably even worse maybe. But yeah, if you paint it beige and if you do a good job in it, you won't be able to tell the difference. And it's,
is that like spray paint, just like standard like car paint, or is it? What sort of paint would you use?
I'd be careful with car paint, but I would. I'm not sure exactly what paint I use the multi ones. So yeah, as long as you got a good primer, and then you get the decent paint. Just make sure you can paint plastics with it. Just don't look at the metal ones only, because you can actually eat away at the case plastic.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. They're brittle enough as it is.
That's right. Yeah. So just make sure you can, paint it on plastic, and it doesn't eat through your Amiga.
God, that'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Cool.
I spray painted mine, so I spray painted mine, and my friends spray painted his as well. So it's actually up till now it's really good. The paint job's fine, and I don't need to worry about it if it's in the sun or anything like this. So.
That's great. Well, great advice there, Maddie. Just before someone's just about to dip theirs in a huge vat of retro bright. Oh my God, no!
It sounds awful, but I think you should just leave them as they are. Leave them sort of yellow, brown.
But I do love The Simpsons, but I don't want to live their life.
That's true.
Yellow Amiga.
It's literally become the cartoon classic pack itself. Right, well, thank you so much for joining us again, Maddie. We really appreciate it. We love having you on. Where can we find you on the interwebs, though? Where's the best places to catch you?
Actually, I've got a website up, www.MsMadLemon.com. So, you can go straight there. A link to my YouTube channel, my blog, everything.
Perfect.
My Bandcamp, I've got my music up there. So, yeah, everything's there.
So everybody jump on MsMadLemon's main website there, and you've got all the links there to her various channels. And please check out her YouTube channel. If you're very fond of magazines, Amiga mags like we're, you'll love her thoughts on some of those great adverts that we used to draw over. And now we still can't afford how overpriced the stuff in those things are.
Yeah, we can have a
Yeah. Stu, where can you find us?
Okay, we're on YouTube under Console Shock. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, all different podcast clients. And again, search Console Shock Podcast or Console Shock Shockcast. You'll find us on there. Twitter. We'll be on. We're not on Instagram. Facebook. Yeah, we're on Facebook under Console Shock.
Yeah, so check us out on all the various things that we're on. Keep checking out the YouTube channel. There'll be more stuff posted. And thank you for listening, everybody. See you in the next one. Take care.
Bye-bye.